Hello FPL managers and welcome back for another video. My name's Jack and today we're going over the players to avoid for the new FPL season. The game has just been launched and today I'm going to look at 6 players which I would recommend you guys avoiding for the start of the new season. These are all players with a fairly decent ownership as well, so I'll be interested to see your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. As always, if you're new to the channel or are looking forward to the new FPL season, leave a like and subscribe and have notification bells turned on, as well as we're going to be uploading so many FPL videos in the build up to the new season, so don't miss those. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So first of all, let's start off with Kieran Trippier. He is a very popular player so far this season on FPL, already a 31% ownership since the game's release. So he is one of the more popular defenders, I believe the 3rd or 4th most owned defender so far in FPL. For me personally, I'm definitely going to be avoiding him for the first 5 fixtures of this new season. Newcastle's fixtures, saying that though, do get a lot better from game week 6, so maybe look to bring him in from game week 6 onwards, but I'd definitely be looking to avoid him for the first 5 game weeks. In the first 5, he has no fixtures with an FDI rating of under 3. He faces Villa, Man City, Liverpool, Brighton and Brentford. 5 fairly strong attacks last season, so I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle only walk away with maximum 1, maybe even 0 clean sheets in their first 5 games. So I think staying away from that Newcastle defence in the first 5 weeks could be a wise move, and I don't really like Trippier's price either at 6.5. At the same price you can get Robertson, who is generally in a much more consistent Liverpool defence, and Robertson has great attacking potential as well. Obviously Trippier's attacking potential is one of his main assets, but I'm just not sure Newcastle are going to be able to add those clean sheets at the start of the season like they were able to do at the start of last year. Also, Newcastle's defence had one of the lowest clean sheet tallies since the resumption of the Premier League after the World Cup last season. So essentially, in the second half of the year, Newcastle's defence was very, very poor. So I'd like to see a little bit better defensive form from Newcastle before I start bringing in their defensive assets. And I'm not too sure spending 6.5 million Trippier with those fixtures is quite worth it at the start of game week 1. Another popular option in midfield, Alexis McAllister, nearly a 15% ownership right now. One of the more popular midfielders in FPL. For me personally, I am steering clear of him this season pretty much entirely. I think using up a Liverpool slot on McAllister isn't the wisest move. He had a very good points tally last season, scored 140 points last year. A lot of his goals were scored from penalties and set pieces though, and I'm not sure he's going to get any penalties or set pieces at Liverpool. I think Alexander-Arnold should be on the free kicks. I think Salah should stay on penalties as well. So if you take McAllister's penalty goals away from him, he wouldn't be a very good midfield option in terms of his FPL points would have been so much down on last season. And I think no one would really be looking at him, even though he is playing for Liverpool now, which is obviously a better side from an attacking standpoint than Brighton. I'm just not sure he's going to be as good a pick. Only the 2 assists last year as well, just a 3.63 expected assist figure. A 10.98 XG is not too bad, but a lot of that did come from penalties, and he's probably not going to have penalties at Liverpool. So I'm not quite sure he's worthwhile spending a Liverpool slot on him. Obviously you only get 3 players from each team. Salah's obviously a great option from Liverpool, as is Trent, Robertson. They have so many other attacking assets as well, and I'm not quite sure McAllister is going to be able to match those other attacking players for FPL points. Gakpo could also be a really nice pick at 7.5, so I think avoiding McAllister is the wise move. I'd be interested to see what his role is like in his new team. I probably wouldn't commit to a player playing his first game in a new side in a new season. I'm not too sure what McAllister's role is going to be, but I definitely don't think he's going to have penalties, which helped him out a lot last season in terms of FPL point scoring. Ben White here, the 3rd player to avoid as well. I don't like his price at all at 5.5 mil. He was actually in one of my mock drafts earlier on in the piece. I liked him at 5 mil. That's where I thought he was going to sit, especially after seeing Zinchenko's price be released at 5 mil and having Ramsdale at 5 mil. I thought it just makes sense to have Ben White at 5 mil there. Seeing him at 5.5, he is the most expensive Arsenal defender, despite being one of their cheaper defensive assets in previous FPL seasons. I think you could go for any other defensive option outside of Ben White in that Arsenal backline, and they would be better value. I like Zinchenko, and especially after the signing of Timber for Arsenal, who yes is primarily a centre-back but can push out to right-back as well. It could see Ben White be rotated for some games, so I think with that extra uncertainty and a bit of cloud around his starting minutes with Timber coming in, Ben White is definitely a player to avoid for me at 5.5. I like Zinchenko on the left at 5 mil, and both those are Arsenal centre-backs in Gabriel and Saliba. cheaper than Ben White, so I like those guys there at 5 mil. I think also Ramsdale at 5 mil is a better Arsenal defensive option than Ben White. Yes, Ben White was good last season, had 15 clean sheets and 5 assists, was one of his better attacking campaigns in terms of goal and assist tally, but I'm just not sure he's going to be able to match that once again in the new season. I just don't think he's going to be as good a value as some of those other Arsenal defenders. If you're looking to go for Arsenal players at the back, I like Ramsdale quite a lot. I think he's a really good goalkeeper consideration, and probably be going for any other outfield Arsenal defender apart from Ben White. And considering that his ownership is pretty high at about 12%, I would encourage managers to look elsewhere in that Arsenal backline. Looking at the next batch of players to avoid, there are a couple of Newcastle assets here. The first one being Alexander Isak. He's coming in at 7.5, which is just 0.5 cheaper than his teammate in Callum Wilson, who I think is a much better forward option. Also, as I touched on with Trippier, I don't like Newcastle's fixtures at all. As you can see, I've got Nick Pope here as well as another player to avoid. He's also got a fairly decent ownership of around 15% so far this season. Isak, also a decently popular forward option, nearly a 12% ownership for him just there. Does place him as one of the more popular forwards coming into game week 1. First of all, let's have a look at Isak. His underlying numbers were nowhere near as good as Callum Wilson's last season. Wilson had an XG of over 15, obviously had a bit of game time advantage over Isak, but Isak just with an 8.21 XG, and when he is playing at the same time as Callum Wilson, when they're both on the pitch together, Isak does push out into a wing role. Wilson occupies that central striker role, which does give him so many more chances. Also, when they're both on the pitch, Wilson does have penalties, so I think getting a penalty taker over a non-penalty taker for just 0.5 million more is so much better value. Callum Wilson had great underlying numbers last season, was extremely clinical, so I think Wilson will be my preferred Newcastle attacking option. So if you do want to go for a Newcastle striker, Wilson would probably be the way forward. But even Callum Wilson, not a great pick to start the season. Once again, I don't like the first 5 fixtures for Newcastle: Villa, Man City, Liverpool, Brentford, Brighton. 5 fairly strong outfits, so I'm not sure, especially considering how many other good forward picks there are in FPL. I like Nkunku quite a lot with some good fixtures. I like Jesus quite a lot at 8 mil, which is just 0.5 more than Isak. I probably would be avoiding Isak to start the new season. Nick Pope at 5.5 as well, I think is a little bit overpriced for him. He's coming in at the same price point as the premium goalkeepers in Alisson and Edison, who are traditionally keepers that score fairly well in fantasy because Liverpool and Man City do record so many clean sheets. I'm not too sure Newcastle can match their clean sheet record last season. Pope picked up 14 clean sheets in the Premier League, but once again, as I touched on with Trippier, the defence was horrendous in the second half of the season. They were superb in the first half, though, picking up their majority of clean sheets in their first 17 game weeks, but at the back end of the year, I wasn't sold on that Newcastle defence. Pope also ranked outside the top 10 keepers for saves last season, so didn't pick up that many saves either, which is not necessarily a great asset to have on a keeper. You want to have a good balance of clean sheet potential and picking up saves as well, as goalkeepers are going to score 1 point for every 3 saves they make. I think Pope is just not quite worth a 5.5 mil price tag. Yes, he scored well last season with 157 points, but I'd be going after a defence with better fixtures to start the new season at this current stage. I really like Ramsdale. He's currently my goalkeeper in my first draft. I think Arsenal have some great fixtures. You could go for Edison at the same price as well in that Man City defence. He's got great fixtures to start the new year. I think he should perform better than Nick Pope over the first 5 game weeks. Maybe you could go for Nick Pope from game week 6 onwards, but even then, I think 5.5 is a little bit pricey for Nick Pope. I would have liked to see him at 5 mil. And as the third player on this page to avoid, I've got Dominic Szoboszlai here. He's coming in at 7 mil in that Liverpool midfield. He played primarily as a right winger at Leipzig last season, had the most starts in right wing out of any position for them in last year's campaign. His numbers on the side here are his Bundesliga stats: 6 goals and 8 assists last season in around 30 appearances for Leipzig. Not great attacking numbers, especially in the Bundesliga, which is traditionally a league where there's lots of goals scored. I'm not too sure how well this is going to translate over to the Premier League. And also, there's going to be a lot of competition for places in that Liverpool midfield and forward line, especially with the signing of Alexis McAllister. They've got Nunes there, Gakpo's there, Salah's always there, and I think Szoboszlai could struggle for some minutes in this Liverpool team. If he is going to stay primarily as a right winger, obviously Salah's already on that side, so it's very hard to take Salah out of that Liverpool attack. And I'm not too sure I'm sold on Szoboszlai right now. 11% ownership is fairly high. I want to see him play a few games for Liverpool, see what his starting minutes are like, whether he's going to be coming off the bench, how secure his spot is in the side, and also when he is playing, what is his position like, because he can play in midfield, he can play on the wing. It's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool utilise Dominic Szoboszlai. So he's definitely a wait and see option. He definitely could be a good option down the line, but right now, coming into Game Week 1, there's too much uncertainty around him. A new player coming into the Premier League and a new team where his position and role is not quite defined yet. I think he's just a wait and see. I'd avoid him for now. If he makes a good start, then maybe you could look to bring him in. But I think there's just a bit too much uncertainty around Dominic Szoboszlai at this current stage. Thanks for watching today's plays to avoid for the new FPL season. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. And I also want to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think you're going to be going for these players on the list, or are you steering clear? Are there any other players that you think are overpriced and you should steer clear of as well? I'd be interested to get your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. As always, have those notification bells turned on so you don't miss any future FPL videos in the build up to Game Week 1. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.